All right, we are back. David, you want to jump back on here? We are going to discuss this study that was just described. More focus in this presentation are on our findings, the results of that study. What are the benefits of collegiate esports? There's a lot of parallels between collegiate esports and general esports outside of the scholastic space. This was a mixed method cross-sectional exploratory study, and we described really the methods of it in the previous presentation. So if you're just jumping on, know that that's why we are not going to go back over that again. So we were approached by the Voice of Intercollegiate Esports to conduct a study on what are the benefits of esports in the collegiate scene. And when you think about what are the benefits of research, well, in the higher education context, it is to help administrators make informed decisions. And this can usually relate to meeting goals and missions of the institution. Certainly, student recruitment is a major goal for institutions. I mean, no matter what you say, even the nonprofits, it is a business and they have to be sustainable. And to do that, they need to recruit, enroll students, and they also need to retain the students that they have. And that is two of the major things of why the proliferation of collegiate esports programs are happening across the world, really. Our main research question for this project was, what are the benefits of collegiate esports programs to institutions of higher education? And as we mentioned in the previous presentation, these were the collaborators involved in this project. So myself and David here on this presentation, and then Jesse and Russ of Voice. So before I get into the benefits, let's talk about the potential downside or concerns, issues within collegiate esports. So first of all, within our sample, we had almost 600 collegiate esports players. Data was collected by 11 different collegiate esports directors. And within the sample who we were able to collect gender data, 91% of the players were male. All 12 of the directors that were sampled were also male. Only 3 out of 238 players that were surveyed identified as Black or African American, which is fairly concerning because we know that at those institutions there was a lot different demographic makeups. For the question, I decided to attend my current university because of the esports team or program. The collegiate esports players, this is 217 players, 58% said not at all on that Likert scale, and another 19% said a little bit. So there's definitely, the perception is that we said people are adding esports programs to recruit new students. And some of our data shows that that might not be their major factor of why they're choosing particular institutions. To pre-cue you later in the presentation, esports programs are helping retain students, and it's also helping bring in transfer students, which is a whole nother benefit, I think. Another major concern within this space, only 2 out of 598 players that received any type of esports scholarship were female. None of them were on full scholarship. And across that entire sample is 7% female. So not a lot of females are getting collegiate esports scholarships. All right, challenges within esports programs, player perceived esports program improvements. So when we asked players, hey, what do you see as the big areas that your collegiate esports program could improve? The first thing was offer more scholarships, which certainly who doesn't like money, and reduce student loans. Competitive development. This was interesting. So a lot of the players wanted to have a greater focus on competition. So we had varsity programs in our sample, but we also had club-based programs. And when you looked at that entire sample, a lot of them did want to make more varsity level teams where they may have had JV teams or club-based teams. They wanted a greater emphasis on recruitment and bringing in other players that may help them competitively. This is an area that I think correlates to why a lot of the players said they didn't choose their institution because of esports as their main reason, is because of the lack of marketing. 15% of them felt that a major thing that they could improve with their program would be better marketing of the program. Increased coaching and staff support was another concern of players, which also relates to funding here, where they just said in general, they wish their program had more funding. And overall, about 14% said that their program is already well run and they weren't really sure about any types of improvements, which 15% is not too bad if people are content with what's going on. So let's talk about the demographics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different institutions had statistically significantly more Asian esports players compared to the percentage of students who are Asian at that same institution. So that is a benefit to having esports programs, is definitely can help bring in that demographic to the institution. This is something that I really wanted to collect because I wanted to see, hey, how many collegiate esports players didn't do any extracurricular activity in high school? From our results, so we asked them, what extracurricular activities did you do in high school? Only 30%, well, less than 30%, 29% played high school esports, and 10% of the sample did not do any extracurricular in high school. And so certainly this is a major added benefit to their college experience. By they probably weren't expecting to join the esports team. It's likely that they played a lot of video games or ranked play, but moving into competition.
Seth, can I just add one thing to that?
Sure.
If you can just go back just real quick.
Yep.
There was also almost half the population played traditional sports as well in high school, which I think should really be emphasized because it goes against kind of the stigma and stereotype that these aren't athletic people. And actually, more people play traditional sports than played esports in high school. So I think that that's something really to emphasize, that it goes against what maybe a lot of people on campus that aren't aware of esports and what they think about the players.
Yeah, and in that same vein, almost 60% did band, choir, or theater. So, that would be another interesting future study if there's correlations between people who game in that area.
Yep.
So here's a question for you. What do you think the average GPA of collegiate esports players are? Throw it in the Twitch chat, please. We'll see who's closest. And we need to have somebody, Emma, you can look at the timestamp. Here's a tip. Now with that, what do you think the average GPA is? Within the sample, the average hours of gaming per week during the academic semester, including practices and competition, was 22.5 hours. So that's fairly significant across a week. So here's the answer, 3.27. So what that tells us is that there weren't any major, we couldn't collect data on the average GPA of almost all of the universities because they didn't want to disclose what's the average GPA of their students. However, we had University 1 did publicly post that, and we did not see a statistically significant difference between the esports players and the general student body. So in short, what we're saying is that just because somebody is on the esports team doesn't mean that they're spending nonstop amount of hours gaming and they are going to get horrible grades and they're going to flunk out of the university. 3.27 is right on par with other students. We also tried to get data on how does that compare to the traditional varsity athletes at those institutions, and we had 2 different institutions where we could find that data across all the varsity athletes. And you can see University 3 and University 10, the varsity athletes' GPAs were not statistically significantly different than the rest of the esports players. So here's another one that I really wanted to collect because I'd seen an industry report on this, I don't know, back in 2018 maybe. What are the top majors of collegiate esports players? So go ahead and throw it in the Twitch chat. What you think are the top academic majors of players? And what do you think is the percentage of STEM majors, science, technology, engineering, and math? Because everybody says that, the majority of players are STEM majors. Is that true or not? Here are the results. 65% of the players were STEM majors, which does help support some of the anecdotal evidence of that. So on the left column are STEM majors, and you can see the number of players in the sample. This is 227 players. On the right column are the non-STEM majors, and the highest major for collegiate esports players was computer science, 19% of the sample. This surprised me. I did not really think engineering would be the second most prevalent collegiate esports major. So any type of engineering was number 2, and then third was actually business or management on the top right column over there. So those were some of the top majors. And certainly if you're an institution that can try to pull in more computer science majors, engineering majors, business management majors, I think sport management we categorize under that business management. Which I know for the classes I teach, I get a lot of sport management majors. So what you might say is, all right, well, that's just because in your sample, computer science and engineering, those were just like well-known majors at those institutions. So we looked at, all right, what are the top majors at the institutions in our sample? And computer science was not one of the top 3 majors at 7 of 11 of those institutions. And engineering was not one of the top 3 majors at 4 of 11 of those institutions. So that helps a little bit of debunking that. Recruitment. Over half of those players attended their university more than 100 miles away from home, which was one of the metrics we collected. And then I pre-queued you in a little bit about transferring. 22.5% of players were transfer-in students to their current university, and 8 of 11 institutions showed significantly more transfer-in esports players versus the transfer-in rate at that same institution. So this requires more research, but what I take from that is that students get to college, they realize, holy smokes, there's this thing called collegiate esports, and I can be on a competitive gaming team. They get into the ecosystem and they realize my university is not very good at the game I play, or I would really like to play on this team at this university, and they're transferring to those schools that are better known for collegiate esports in that particular game title that they're playing. David, if you have anything, go ahead.
Oh, I can just tell you again from our perspective, like that's exactly what happens at Winthrop. We get a lot of players that I guess you could say get poached from other schools and transfer in.
Yeah, and in NCAA, we have the rules about, all right, well, coaches can go whenever they want, but players, if you transfer to a school, I know they have the transfer portal now, but previously it was like if you recruited an athlete and then they decided to leave your institution, then they would have to sit out a year of eligibility, which so that does not exist in the collegiate esports space. So other benefits we had. If you think about it, only 4.8% of the sample were on an esports scholarship. So certainly players are not playing esports because of they're on scholarship. It's not like a job to them. However, certain institutions, they're playing at the semi-pro level. And then, there's 11.5% of the sample were on a partial scholarship. So the vast majority of them are not on scholarship. Retention. So this is, I would say, weak evidence, but when we ask because certainly perceptions and what their intentions does not match reality, but this is very interesting evidence to us. When we ask the question, do you plan to stay at your current university until you graduate? Out of 215 players, almost 95% said yes. That, certainly relates strongly and beneficial to student retention. Only one player out of that entire sample says, no, I'm not going to stay here until I graduate. So that's really strong evidence, and 10 said, I don't know. So certainly a longitudinal study to track that would be stronger evidence, but that's a good start. 53% of that sample also said that the program helps them to want to stay at their university until they graduate. I didn't really know what that percentage was going to be when we asked that question. So, you can take it for what it is and whether you thought it would be higher or lower. How has the esports program impacted your decision to stay at or leave at your current university? Here are some of the qualitative responses. It's honestly the only reason I haven't transferred, is what one player stated. Huge, my esports director is the best. So that's certainly beneficial to liking the administration there. The esports program created an environment that helped me settle quicker. So certainly when you're moving into the college space and you're in an unfamiliar environment, the program can help you find a home so that you can adjust to college life better. So graduation rates. These are esports director reported graduation rates, which if I'm being honest, as an unbiased researcher, I don't know how accurate these stats are. But when we look at the average graduation rate of the institutions that we sampled, it's 76% for the general student body, and for the collegiate esports programs at those institutions, 85% graduation rates. So again, I don't know how accurate the information was from those directors, but the information we got is that the esports players have a higher graduation rate than the general student body. Perceived benefits. So this is some of the qualitative themes that we found on what the esports directors perceived as benefits to collegiate esports. So the left side is the themes. Community and belonging, they saw as like the major benefit to collegiate esports. Professional and personal development was 2. Career pathways and industry preparation was 3. And then recruitment, retention, and student engagement was 4. This is from the esports directors. When we asked that same question to the players, the same number 1 response was community and friendship. And then a sub-theme of that was that they felt like the benefit was having a culture of like-minded people around them. The next one is competition. Benefit. Next one, personal growth and life skill development, which certainly helps with that transferable skill piece that we talked about it in the last presentation. And then teamwork, team environment, and team skill building was another major benefit that players listed. When we asked the directors, what do you see as the benefits to the university by these programs? Student recruitment and retention, this is by the directors. Student engagement, campus involvement, and then marketing and branding of the institution. And that's particularly from the institutions that perform well competitively. The directors see that as a benefit. The players of the same question, they saw publicity and recognition for the university. So that marketing piece, it helps as a recruiting tool, building community and student engagement. And then the sub-theme of that is the players felt that it helped improve diversity and inclusion on the space. Skills learned and developed from playing collegiate esports. The players perceived that the top skills were teamwork, communication, leadership, time management, Those are all transferable skills. So the top 4 perceived skills that they're developing, they could use in any career field. The only when you hit the number 5 theme was game-specific skills, is becoming a better player at esports. And then the next one, problem-solving skills, critical thinking skills. Again, those are transferable skills. I'm going to skip that one. All right, so then we gave them a predetermined list of skills based upon the literature, and we had them rank. Oh, actually, we just had them choose what they felt the top 5 skills out of this list were. The top skills from the players were communication skills, number 1, teamwork skills, number 2, ability for commitment and persistence, 3, leadership skills, 4, problem-solving skills, 5. Again, the top 5 are all transferable skills to any job they're going to have in the future. It wasn't till number 6 did we get reaction time, which is a game, physical skill. But certainly those cognitive skills can help with gameplay. Now, this was another really interesting thing that I wanted to figure out was, okay, I see these programs and all these players are doing all these different jobs other than being a player. So what percentage of players do some other type of role within collegiate esports that's not just playing? And 73% are doing some other type of role beyond player. The top one is a team captain, 30%. Number 2, a shot caller, in-game leader, almost 30%. The next one is they are working as a broadcaster. So definitely building communication skills there. Number 4, they worked with fundraising with their program. And then number 5, they are an esports coach. So the fact that 73% of players are doing a role beyond just playing is pretty remarkable when you're thinking about transferable skills and what they're learning and developing. So I think we're right on time here. There's our references. Questions. We'll see. I'm going to look over here into the chat. If computer science is not a top major at school, then it is at least a good ranked academic program. I'd hate to have to choose between top ranked esports team versus a top ranked computer science program. So I think it's a comment more than a question. Oh, is it? If computer science is not a top major at the school, then it is at least a good ranked academic program. Oh, yeah, we didn't look at the actual rankings of the academic programs. I don't know how accurate those rankings are either. We'd have to look at, I drive down a billboard and then it's like, hey, we're the top 5 institution at this in this state. And then you see a bunch of small print below it and it's from like, I don't know. David, do you have a comment on that?
Well, I was just going to say that I know esports, I think, is having a influence on the majors, or at least some of the like concentrations within majors that are being offered at universities, because it is seen as a recruitment and retention tool. So at Winthrop, for instance, the cybersecurity, I guess, emphasis in computer science was really created almost at the same time that esports was coming up. And a big reason or push for that was the public image that esports was bringing to Winthrop. So I think that esports might be actually having an effect on some academic programs that are being offered at the universities. Not a direct answer to that question, but it just made me think of it as we were talking about it.
Yeah, we didn't look at any type of rankings of those programs. Seeing the slide of clubs, activities of players in high school made me think if you can correlate some of those features to performance, then it has Seth inadvertently developed a new secret to recruiting tool. Yes, certainly. If you're looking at that, the percentage of players that have doing certain things within high school, that those might be some areas that you might try to pull in. I mean, I certainly think based upon this study that engineering programs should seriously be looking at making sure that their institution has an esports program, because I think they'll lose out on players if they don't, and certain computer science too. Number 3, how are the significant trends in this study transferring, retention, academic majors, aligning, or differing from national trends?
That's a good question.
So, yeah, that is a good question. That is something we should probably integrate into the academic paper. GPA is a one thing where institutions don't publicly announce what's the GPA of students there. I don't think institutions want to publish that. So that would be difficult to get. I think that we could try to do some comparisons to transferring and retentions. I don't think we could do statistical analyses because we wouldn't know the total number within each of the samples, but we could have side-by-side comparisons of those rates. So that's a great comment that we'll look to try to integrate into the next into the academic paper. All right. As an exercise science was one of the big programs pushed prior to my freshman year in 2022, are esports being advertised as a major or minor to incoming freshmen, or has popularity dwindled in the past few years at SRU? If so, how can we reach out to incoming students more effectively? Well, when it comes to college recruitment, certainly I know at our institution, I know at Syracuse, when you go see the campus and they do the campus walkthrough, they walk you right by the esports arena, because it's pretty impressive to see the amount of money put into it and the technology there. And so I think that people are starting to become aware of it. How is it advertised? I mean, that's one of the things. Certainly the websites are going to help pull in. I think broadcasting gameplay is a big thing for marketing players, upcoming players. Having on-campus events for high school students is another big one. David, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, I think, be pushed as much as some of these other, I guess, more traditional majors like exercise science or biology, or kind of like pre-med type majors. But I could see it being pushed for specific populations, maybe more so than like the general student body.
All right, last question. How can we reach out to other non-STEM disciplines, either to increase collegiate enrollment or club involvement? I mean, we still had, 35% were non-STEM majors. So it's still over a third of these players are non-STEM majors. So I think they're still being pulled into these programs, but we got to cut it there. I got to get set up for the next presentation. David, do you have any closing thoughts?
I think just on that question, I think it's also getting gamers involved. So I know at Winthrop, they're pulling in like a lot of communication and marketing majors to do like the social media and that area. So I don't think it always has to be the esports players that are getting recruited into these programs.
All right. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We will get set up for the next presentation, which is Joe McAllister. He is going to be presenting, I believe, on AI and esports. So stick with us and continue to engage in that Twitch chat. Thanks, David.
All right. See you guys.
Bye. All right, welcome back. We have here Joe McAllister to discuss AI and esports